All right, so here we go. So what I'm going to introduce to you guys today is kind of a style of enlarging something, okay? Your next project that we work on is going to deal with enlarging something. So I want to give you kind of a quick background on how to do just that. What I've done is I've grabbed just a magazine out of our big box of magazines in the back, and you're going to be doing the same here in a little bit. But I've got my magazine here. And, I leafed through it, and I was looking, and I'm like, oh, okay, what picture? No, I don't want to do that. I was trying to find a picture that would look pretty cool. That guy's jet skiing, he's like 90, that's kind of cool. And I kind of leafed through, and you know what? I found this girl right here. I think she is a pretty cool-looking chickie right there. I think that's pretty neat. But you know what? Let's be fair. I'm a good artist, and you guys are good artists, but to just sit down and have 2 days to draw this is going to be pretty freaking hard, right? It will be. Absolutely it will be. So, I'm going to challenge myself. I'm just going to rip it on out, because I don't need the magazine. What's that? The background? No. This lady here? We could do her. You guys want to do her instead? I don't mind. Let's do her instead. Alright. Sorry, crying Indian lady. We're doing other crying Indian lady. Okay, so get rid of that magazine. Alright, so here's my piece. Looking good. We're going to do creepy crying lady. Okay? So that's what we're going to do. Alright, now what I want to do is this. First thing, I'm going to think about composition. Okay, and you guys already know composition. We've talked about the rule of thirds before. We talked about how do you lay out a picture, where's your focal point and all that. And obviously I want her to be the focus of this picture. I don't really need to see this lady's shoulder anymore. I just don't need it. So I'm going to fold this down just a little bit. Maybe something like that. Ooh, that's a good sound. It's like a chipmunk fart or something. I don't know what that was. Alright, so I've got that. That's pretty good, but now it's really tall. I don't like that at all. So let's just kind of fold this up, kind of get it a little more square. It doesn't have to be. There's no real specific size or anything. Alright, so that looks a little bit better to me. I think that looks pretty cool. I've got a little reflection here, but something like that. Okay? So I want to draw her. I want to get good detail, but I want to make it bigger. I want to make it the size of a whole sheet of paper. So how the heck do I take this picture and just enlarge it? Well, you guys already know blocking in, right? So I could absolutely sit down and like sketch this in. It's okay, her head's about here, and then this, and all right, well, eyeball, eye socket. Oh, no, they're in the middle of the head, so that's more crap. I could go through all of that crap and really sit down and try my best to block in this lady's face, because you guys know how to do that. We've already talked about that. But I'm going to show you a significantly easier way. And if you were someone that was having a hard time blocking in the human face, you're going to love this style. Now, I will tell you this. There are plenty of people that are going to see this, and it's going to feel, in your gut, it's going to feel kind of like cheating. Okay? It's going to feel like cheating, but I promise you it is most certainly not cheating in any way. Because you're still going to use your ability, your kind of sketching, and your blocking in later on. But what we're doing is we're going to set down a foundation first. Okay? So I'll show you what I'm doing. Alright, so first things first, I'm going to grab my way cool screaming Indian lady picture. Okay? I'm going to take a ruler. Now, I have a T-square. You don't have to have a T-square. Just a regular ruler is fine too, but I like to look all fancy and professional. I'm going to grab myself a nice marker. Okay? I'm going to line this up. Now, what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to make a grid over top of this picture. Okay? Just a simple, easy-peasy grid. Now, maybe your picture is really tiny, and that's okay too. So obviously I want to adjust my scale, right? We're talking about scale, we're talking about proportion here. So for mine, for example, I'm going to go pretty easy just because it's a demonstration. So I'm going to make a mark every inch, okay? Maybe yours is every half inch, maybe it's every fourth of an inch, maybe it's every eighth of an inch, and dear God, if it's every 16th of an inch, well, we can talk. But for the sake of argument, let's say I'm going to do every inch. So I'm just going to make a little mark, right, like so. These are not great markers, but they'll do the job. Okay. Okay. So there's my marks, right? I'm going to use my nice T-square. Remember how to use that with this kind of straight edge line right against the edge of the magazine. I'm going to line that up. I'm going to make myself a nice little line right across there. Making the sound effects does help. You know what? I'm going to grab a Sharpie so you guys can see that. I don't want you to miss out on all the cool lines that I'm making. I know you're excited. I'm excited too, guys. Calm down. All right, here we go. So, whoop, there, that's significantly better. All right, then I do this guy here. Oh, jeez, messing up. Don't mess up on the demo. It's not a good sign. All right, here we go. This guy here, getting them all nice and lined up. And here's the dude too. Let's get that guy. All right, easy peasy. And one more to go. Oh, golly. All right. There we go. There's Our Lady. Now she looks like she's in jail. That's not good. All right. So we got the grids going this way. Now we're going to do a 1 inch by 1 inch grid. So I'm going to do the same thing. You've got it, go in the opposite direction. So I need to figure out where my lines are. So again, I'm going to do 1 inch by 1 inch. So right there, right there, right there, there, and a little down there. Okay. Now notice that like my last square over on this side, I'll turn up the lightness here. My last square on this side is not quite an inch. So whenever I'm all done, I'm going to kind of crop this down so that it fits more of a pristine, kind of nice and easy measurement here. This is not math class. We don't want to kill ourselves with numbers, but we are going to deal with them a little bit. So just mark that up here real quick. Cut across, right on in, okay, getting a nice grid. Now, I've done this project before. I'll just kind of talk here while I'm doing this. I've done this project before, and what we did before is kind of a fun little one-off. We talked about Cubism, which we will later on in this class as well. And we went through, something like that, and we went through and we actually purposefully made an improper square. So like we could, if you wanted to, just for funsies, you could make a square, you know, it was all kind of like messed up looking lines, right? And then you have to draw each square inside of here, and if it gets all wonky looking, it's kind of a cool little fun project. We're not going to do that here and now. The only reason we're not going to do that, we might revisit it, but the only reason we're not going to do it right now is, again, I want to make sure that you guys comprehend how to actually enlarge something, because your next project is going to very much hinge on your ability to enlarge something, okay? So I've got my piece of paper here, right? Now, what I want to do, I want to enlarge this girl. Let's say, again, I'm going to do simple math, okay, for me. You can do it any way you want to, but I want to enlarge her double. I want to make her double the size that she is. So imagine if I was in the computer, I could grab these edges and make it larger. Well, in person, what I need to do is do some simple math. So if these are each 1 inch by 1 inch, obviously, enlarging it double would make it 2 inch by 2 inch, right? Again, not crazy hard math here, so don't stress if you are not the mathematic type. So, let's see. So we do every 2 inch. Now notice, I'm not going to fit everything in this page. It's not going to happen. So normal 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, I get 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm only going to get maybe that much of this square, and that's okay. And then again, I'm going to do the same thing this way. Every 2 inches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, I'm going to grid this off very, very quickly. You can take much more time if you need to. Notice I'm doing it with pen and paper here, or excuse me, pencil and paper here. Not using that Sharpie anymore. Because eventually we're actually going to go through it and erase this. Okay, there's that. Go this way. Okay. 2. Line up that T-square. 3. I would suggest if you have access to them, again, I have plenty in my classroom, I would suggest that you use the T-square. It's going to give you a really nice straight edge, and we already know how to use them, but if you don't have access, remember that you can always line up the edge of your ruler to the edge of that paper, and that'll give you a pretty good straight line overall. All right, so I've got my grid, okay? Put that over there. All right, so I've got my grid, I've got my lady, and things are looking good. So what I'm going to do to make my life a little bit easier, I got 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to ignore this whole little side over here entirely. Again, this is just a practice, so 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's just fold this over a little bit. Something like that. So I'm going to see that much over. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and a bit. Let's get rid of that bit. We don't need that. Make our lives easier. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So let's see. Where do I want it to go? Well, 1, 2, 3. I could do 4, 5, and get rid of this bottom one. That'll work perfect. All right. So, looking good. We've kind of cropped our picture. We're going to enlarge it double, right? So far, so good. All right, now, what we're doing is this. Sometimes whenever you look at a photograph, especially something that you don't know how to do, like this lady's face, it can get overwhelming. How do I draw all of that crap, right? Okay. What you need to do is kind of think for a second that you're just looking at one square at a time. It's kind of like doing Battleship, right? So I'm just going to look at one square at a time. So, what is in just that square? That's all I need to think about. Well, you guys can see it plain as day. It's pretty abstract. It doesn't really look like anything. It's just kind of a weird looking shape. I'm going to zoom in so you can see exactly what I'm doing here. Focus. All right. So all I'm going to do is basically make shapes. I'm not even worried about blocking in. I'm literally like almost tracing in my head. So I've got kind of, let's see, about halfway in this square to about here. So something like here to here, and I've got this kind of blue shape, like that. I've got this weird shape right here. This kind of comes up and over, back down, and then I've got this weird yellow bit that kind of comes there, right? That's basically it. Maybe a little black like triangle right there. That's all it is. Very super duper simple, right? Then I'm going to switch, move over, grab this guy, and you don't have to actually, I'm doing the paper just for example. You would not need to do that by any means. All right, so now I'm not too worried, and I promise you, don't be too worried about making sure that these things connect, okay? Because we are going to go back through, we are going to sketch everything in overall. We're going to use our blocking in techniques, but this is kind of laying down a foundation so we know where everything is initially. So again, you know what, for the sake of argument, I'm going to blind myself here real quick. Grab another piece of paper. I'm blinded. So now I don't know where the heck anything is, just like in real life. Lost and confused at all times. All right, so I'm going to kind of, again, average. Well, that's about halfway. So like there, so about here. This kind of comes up, back down. Back down, there's that little, looks like an avocado or something.
That's what I was thinking.
Right, doesn't it? Totally. I like avocados. Good stuff. Oh, they're delicious. Exactly, right? It's like lettuce. How can you not like it?
They have a weird texture.
Well, they definitely, if you have a thing with texture, they definitely have a texture thing.
I can't do texture.
So, okay, so there's kind of that weird avocado shape, right? Again, notice, this is not, I'm not spending time on this, right? I'm not sitting here like painstakingly thinking and blocking everything in. I'm just getting the foundation down. So maybe it lines up. Nope, not even kind of. Right? And that's okay, right? That's okay. You're going literally square by square. If you need to take pieces of paper and block it out, please do so, okay? So I'm going to do this real quick. Get rid of my extra paper. I'm just going to hammer through these as quickly as I can. Again, notice that I'm not really thinking very hard about them. So I'm doing this square number 3 here. Number 3 kind of comes up, over. He's got like a weird little swirly swoosh over here. Kind of comes in. I've got this lady's pink headdress thing going on. I don't know if you guys can see that. Whoa. Okay. Got like a weird little pink headdress thing here. That kind of comes up. Again, I'm just thinking about things as shapes. I'm not even thinking about this as like a lady's head. I'm not blocking it in. I'm not doing anything really. It's very, very simple stuff. This kind of comes up and around. This kind of comes around. There's like a black shape there, like that. Okay, so I got my first row. Okay, now this does not look exactly like that. You guys can see that plain as day. Whenever I'm all done, and I would go through each one of these squares, obviously, and I'll show you her face to show you a little more detail, but whenever you're all done, then you're going to start thinking about your blocking in stuff, right? So then I'll start thinking, okay, well, I'm going to smooth this all together. This kind of comes together here. This connects. That connects, right? Then I'm going to quit thinking about it as a grid and start thinking about it as an overall piece, okay? Where are my highlights? Where are my lowlights? All that kind of stuff. I'm going to zoom in here. Let's do like a hard piece. Let's do, I don't know, like her eyeball. That's kind of difficult. So just like Battleship, right? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. So it's this right here. All right. So let's see. If I think about, and again, if you have a lot of trouble, I'll just show you a quick little trick. If you have a lot of trouble, if there's too much information in one of these squares, all you have to do, grid it off some more. No one says you can't. The smaller you make that square, the more abstract it becomes. The more abstract it becomes, the easier it becomes. So this is just like the tip of her eyebrow. This piece kind of comes, let's see, there's her little babushka. Is that a Pittsburgh term? I'm sorry. A babushka? It's not a babushka. No, I'm sorry, I'm being insensitive. No, it is not a babushka. It's like an old lady, whenever they wrap their heads up from the rain. I don't know. I grew up with that term. It's a Polish term.
I'm Polish.
Are you? There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. All right, so I'm going through. Looks like this one here is kind of cut diagonally, kind of her eyeball in there. Now this is a weird shape to draw. I would never be able to block this in with that glare in there. It's kind of blurred. But if I think about it as just an abstract piece, it's no longer as challenging. She's got this cool design on her little headdress there. I want to make sure to get that as well. Her babushka. Right? I can go through, get all that in. She's got some designs up here. Again, does that look exactly like her eye? God, no. It doesn't, right? But I promise you, as you start going through and you start piecing this stuff together, it's going to be just like how Sarod worked with pointillism, right? Up close, teeny tiny little dots, right? Looks like nothing. But the more of these little squares you start to fill in, the more it's going to become enlarged and enlarged and enlarged until pretty soon you've got this piece. Remember how the printing industry works, right? They work with halftones, right? That dot process, whether it's RGB style or CMYK style. This entire photo right here is not a photograph of a woman. What it is a bunch of little tiny dots that the printer printed out onto a nice glossy piece of paper, right? That's all it is, a bunch of tiny dots. From far away, your brain is seeing the picture of a lady's face. But up close, if I were to get out a magnifying glass and then get in a magnifying glass for that magnifying glass, you would see a bunch of little tiny dots, right? They're pixels, they're points, they're dots. All it is halftoning or pointillism, right? And that's basically what we're doing here. We are zooming in and zooming in and zooming in to make it as easy for you to draw as possible. You are still going to zoom back out. You are still going to smooth everything over and use your blocking in. Think about, okay, what shape is her eye? Well, that could go there. This gets colored in. That starts to look a little bit different. But you're just going to go along and enlarge this piece. Okay? Now, this is just a practice. This is just a practice. This is just getting you guys ready for your next project, which is going to be kind of this on steroids, basically. It's going to be this, only a little bit more difficult. But if you can comprehend this, then you are good to go. Now, I will tell you this. You do not in any way, shape, or form need to color this. This is just practice. So just use regular old pencil. If you want to add some shading and shadow, a little bit of lighting in that, some of the value scale, please do. If you don't, you want to do straight up outlines, wonderful. You can just do straight up contour lines for all I care. This is just a basic practice, okay? But it's getting us to the point where we feel comfortable enlarging a small picture, because I'm going to give you a picture for your next project. It's going to be about that big. And you're going to need to make it about that big. Okay? It is going to be a challenge, but I promise you, you guys can absolutely do it. Okay? Cool? You guys trust me? Good. All right, magazines are in the back. Please just grab a whole bunch of them. Find a picture that you like. Remember that you've got 2 days to work on it, today and tomorrow. And it's not due until next week, Tuesday. That way it gives you plenty of time to use it for homework as well. Okay, guys? Cool? Good? All right.